Recording started. We'll open the meeting. Thanks for all being here. First up, we've got an apology from Matt, who's going, I guess he's at the Queenstown, what do you call it game? Monopoly launch.
Oh.
That's where the mayor is. They're bidding Wanaka now. I'm going since Monopoly, we're going to need, but never mind.
Another version of Monopoly.
Okay, so someone move that we accept Matt's apology. Melissa, second by Barry, or Gavin, sorry. All in favour?
Yep.
Thank you. No, any declarations of conflict of interest based on what's on the agenda? Nope.
No.
Public forum, we don't have any public forum. Matters lying on the table, no matters lying on the table.
Do you want to discuss the public forum request in case?
Okay, yeah, well, I'll cover off on that. We did have a request from Mr. Hall, who's part of the Mulligan's Protection Society type group. He wanted to speak about the fast track application that has gone in for the Coronet Village type thing. We looked at it and actually declined the request because it's not on the agenda, it's a bit premature, and also might set a precedent for a whole lot of things. We haven't been on the decision making on that. We'll obviously be providing our department to provide information to the EPA on request when it actually gets going. So he was not very happy about that, and I responded to him an email. He has actually applied to the council. Well, I suggested that if you're able to, but I think the mayor and the CEO have turned him down again there. So they're trying to set a thing, because otherwise we could be inundated, rightly or wrongly, with public forum on fast track proposals that haven't actually got going yet. We haven't seen the details of. So you may get some feedback from them or comment from them. So that's the position I took based on advice, and that's where we sit at the moment. I have got an email just a little bit, but currently he came back to me and explained to me how the EPA process or the fast track process worked, what our involvement should be. So that was all good. Okay.
Thanks.
Confirmation of the public minutes of the meeting on the 22nd of October. Everyone had a quick look at them.
We need to confirm the agenda. Do we need to confirm the agenda?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I missed that. Thanks, Mr.
Matt's on the table.
Vice Chief. Yeah, the agenda be confirmed without alteration. I'll move that. Second by Gavin. All in favour? Thanks, Gavin. Public meeting, minutes of the public meeting. We got that bit sorted out. The public minutes of the 22nd of October Planning and Strategy Committee meeting be confirmed for an correct record. I'd like to move that. Gavin, second. Not you, can't you? Move here.
Not in my hand.
Barry, any discussion? All in favour? Right, update. Item 1, update on progress of the district plan updates and other key projects. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you. Good morning. Last meeting of the year. That's always exciting. I will take the agenda item as read, but I think it's probably the best use of time if we just work through page by page, and I can answer questions as they come up, or give updates on anything that has happened since I drafted this email, which was this agenda item, which was a good 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay, good idea. So we're basically starting on page 16. That's the table. We're happy to start there. And anything changes in bold?
Yeah, it's correct. So not too much on those first couple in terms of outstanding appeals that we're working through.
Just on page 18, I just can't remember the last meeting we covered off. There's mediation for the Martha's Point re-notification.
Yes, mediation was held a couple of months ago. We had 1 day mediation. it was not successful, no resolutions or outcomes were made. Recently, there has been a meeting between the parties and the judge, a judicial conference, in terms of trying to map out a way forward for this one, because there are interrelationships with the priority area landscapes variation as well. So
Oh, that's
how
right.
that works,
Yeah.
and also a declaration which is outstanding with the court. So we're just working through that at the moment, because there was a request from the landowners and the Arthur's Point Society to have a hearing on the location of the boundary first, and then understanding what development, if any, could happen within that. So that's being worked through at the moment with the court to try and find a way through, essentially.
Okay.
Um,
The next one you had involved was about the landscape schedules.
yes.
Tax personnel resolved the appeals.
Yep, so we got the delegation to mediate, which we got from a previous planning and strategy committee meeting. I think we need to report back to the court later this month in terms of how that mediation can work in the most effective manner, given the number of appeals on that one. And early next year, we'll be getting into that process. Te Putahi Ladies Mile, we got the decision from the minister. We've publicly notified that on the 28th, and it will be made formally operative on the 6th of December. So that will be the first part of the proposed district plan that is operative, which is interesting, but that was part of the gazette from the minister that we had to do it that way. So we've been working through on our e-plan on how we will show both the zone and any specific provisions within the other part of the plan, such as in subdivision transport signs, how we'll show those particular rules as operative. And then we'll be using that same process for other parts of the plan that will make formally operative early next year. For us, we need to ensure that we then keep really good records in terms of that 10-year time frame for those provisions being operative in the time frame that we need to then review if we still have an RMA in some form that looks like that at that time.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I've got a quick question on that.
Yep.
That's right. So there were some conditions to be resolved about it, so that they could be decided by the minister. We talked about it in the last full council meeting. Is there anything that could be shared at this stage on what the resolution is?
The resolution was the minister was satisfied with what we sent through, which was what was tabled at that full council meeting, and essentially approved the variation as we'd sent it through.
So there was some variables that were amendments to provisions. How do you
Yeah, and that
control?
was accepted. Yeah.
How do you control when we talked about options of withholding code compliance and things like that? Is that
That was the discussion, yes, to the chair. It was
Sorry,
about the ministry not wanting to mix the two bits of legislation when you were doing an RMA consent to mix it with a CCC under the Building Act. So the provisions were put in terms of making sure the covenants were put in place so people could live in those properties until all the requirements and provisions were met. Right. So it does the same thing, just in a slightly different way to avoid any potential complication between the bits of legislation.
so? But potentially people could still get a building consent and build a house
Yes,
before those conditions are met.
yes, and
Yeah.
that is possible. And look, that at the council meeting, it was raised that, is this going to create an expectation that, you can move into the house? We need to be very clear, the provisions are really clear about requiring these provisions to be met. So it's actually common enough that we do have dwellings built in subdivisions that haven't gone right the way through the process, and people cannot live in those until it's resolved.
interesting. Okay.
Down to top of page 20, urban intensification, we are working through with evidence and waiting for the update of the housing and business analysis for that one as well. There's some interrelationships there.
Question there too.
Yep.
Do we have any idea of a time frame for the hearing at this stage? Is it still a bit?
We're looking at the middle of next year, providing we can get confirmed the HBA. So working as hard as we can on that. And what we're planning is basically just having our evidence sitting ready to go for whenever we can get a time frame that works. Upper Clutha Landscapes, it's out for submission at the moment. I think they close next Friday. We have 2 in so far, but usually they come in the last day. So that will be happening. We're hoping to move quite quickly on that one in terms of summary of decision requested being notified late January next year, but we'll see how we go on that one to try and boost that one along. Bottom of page 21, district plan review and the review of the operative special zones. Workshop was held last week with councillors. We've created a web page, I think is live or should be very close to being live, to keep members of the community and key stakeholders, landowners, aware of where we are on that, and we'll be putting the Section 35 monitoring reports, so monitoring the efficiency and the effectiveness of those operative zones up on that web page as soon as they're completed, so between now and early next year.
Yeah, I guess some of them, I get what I say, should be quite reasonably simple. You know, things like Penrith Park, you know.
Are you putting that in a simple category or?
What are they going to suggest out there?
Yeah, we've had Penrith Park. It's an interesting one.
They want to simplify it out there.
Yeah, we've had a few people that are definitely waiting for us to progress the review of that chapter.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, we've set up.
Shame you have to open the door on some of these, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
Like I said the other day, there is some risk with some of these, and risk constraining the scope so that we don't get additional special zone requests is going to be quite important, because that's the last thing we want. And yeah, the definition of resort is quite a big one in this too, because because a lot of the special zones are resort zones, you know, not using them as de facto for urban development when they're supposed to be resorts.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yes. Okay. The hills.
and yeah, we've received that private plan change or private variation. We are working through that in terms of requirements for further information, and our time frame for that I think is next week. So Anita will be going out to the hills with some requests for some further information. Once we've got that back in early next year, we will be coming back to the committee. This committee has a delegation in terms of accept, adopt, reject, or process as a resource consent. Those are the 4 possible options under a private plan change. So yeah, once we get to that stage, we'll come back with a lot more information to help guide you in your decision making.
But yeah, how does this line up with their fast track application? The same thing.
Not quite. I understand the boundaries are a little bit different. The hills under another appellant name have an outstanding appeal on the corner of Hogan's Gully Road and Arrowtown Lake Hayes Road, which is mostly not covered by this private plan change. Boxer Hills, which is not covered by this private plan change area. That one had been sitting on hold, awaiting resolution of the other side of the road, which was the Woodfall Park appeals that we've just received a decision on. So Mike from Simpson Grayson will be going back to them saying, okay, let's progress, let's get the other appeal looked at essentially, so we can try and get that off the table as well, or resolved in one form or another.
Yes, just through the chair, hasn't been open at this point in terms of what we're consulting with about what we're processing at the moment as a plan change, and they may not ever go down the fast track route. I think they were keeping their options open. See how the process.
Okay. Right, now we're down to the commentary there.
So as I said before, I'll be trying to make significant parts of the plan formally operative, early next year. No changes with Gorge Road or Glenorchy, and a little bit of an update in terms of the timing on the housing and business analysis.
Yeah, the housing business, the HBA, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's already slipped right away, but that's.
Yeah, it has. Yep.
Is there any sort of indication why, what the issues are then?
Understanding our capability for infrastructure and really confirming as accurately as possible our demand projections, because they are really critical to how the HBA works.
Okay.
And those have taken longer than anticipated.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that though. I mean, it's good that infrastructure has been looked at more closely, because I think that's a major issue, that the intensification, and even through this process, but even as a council at a broad level, it'd be interesting to get a better grip on, you know, what, yeah, the relative amounts of infrastructure that are funded versus unfunded versus already supplied for each of our areas. The Southern Corridor, for example, is, you know, how much infrastructure is already, you know, how much capacity is already enabled. And I know that it's not subject to necessarily subject to the intensification, but yeah, in other areas going, how much is already enabled by the infrastructure we have, how much is enabled by the funding in the LTP versus how much is outstanding in terms of funded infrastructure. Something we need to continue to understand.
Definitely, and the model that will be created will hopefully help council-wide a lot better in terms of making funding decisions in terms of X amount of money. If we use it there, we can develop X amount of houses or Y amount of houses as opposed to there.
But that's the next step. It's efficiency.
That's what we'd like to
What are the
Yeah.
the most beneficial investments for return on
That's,
investment?
yeah, it's going to be a very useful thing, so I suppose it's good to have important to get it
right.
right.
I'd rather we took the time to do that rather than.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Do we have had this done previously?
Yeah, no, we actually Queenstown Lakes has been doing a form of this for some 20 years. It's only recently in the MPS urban development that we have to do it, or councils have to do it. So yeah, we do have the last one was ratified by council, I think about 3 years ago. It was one of the first ones, just when I came into this job. So we are reviewing that now, both in terms of the residential capacity and business capacity.
Okay. And the questions, we got down to attachment B. Summary of all the appeals.
Yep, so I can just take you through where we are. Mediation still ongoing in relation to the Katona Cattle Company appeals, which traverse over a number of zones. Nothing, we're down 28.
20, I know it's been there for a while, but do we know much about what's happening with Jerry Bell and the rezoning opposite the airport? That's just it's just waiting now to be.
Yeah, no, that needs to be, potentially a bit more resource dedicated to it. There is mediation happening. We've been looking at reports in terms of traffic landscape and planning from the appellant. Yeah, Amy within the team has been working on that. We have some delegations in terms of what we can agree on essentially. So it's hopeful that we won't need any environment court time hearing for that. But it is work in progress.
The Queensland Airport, that's come down to the type of tree, appropriate tree species. Surely they can sort that out.
Yes, we have actually gone back to them in terms of what's a way that we can help with that one, in the sense that we're not doing too much in terms of residential design guides, and how much how helpful that will be, or how many people would necessarily look at those, especially if they're doing permitted activities in terms of dwelling. You wouldn't necessarily go and find a residential design guide that helped you with your species that don't attract birds as opposed to do. So that's where that appeal point came from, in terms of trying to lessen opportunities for bird strike.
Okay. Carry on, what's,
I'll just take some notes myself in terms of questions. Well and strain at water equities, since the agenda item has been written, we have had some consent orders issued by the court, which have already been forwarded on to you, so I will get that updated.
Yep.
Next time.
Yeah, so we've had Wakatipu equities and Barn Hill in the recently, haven't we? We've had decisions on.
Yeah.
And possibly well in Australia.
Yeah. That Williamson one is still on hold, which is on my list to try and work through. Boxer Hills is the one we were talking about before, at the top of page 30, near the Hills site. We have got the final decision for Woodfall Park, which I can speak to in public excluded, but yeah, so we've, in the last couple of weeks, we've actually got quite a lot through the Environment Court, which is really gratifying, will help us make portions of the plan operative. No other updates. I'm sort of scrolling at page 33 down to 34, unless anybody has any questions.
any questions?
34, 35, that Tussock Rise hearing is happening next week in the Environment Court here in Queenstown.
Yeah, that'd be good. What's that next week? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, sorry, no, it hasn't changed, but what's happening with the SN activities and QAC, the recreational open space one?
We are mediating, and I can discuss that more in public excluded if
Okay.
it's so like.
Alright.
Yep. Yeah, we've reached out in terms of the Boyd appeal now that we have the latest mile variation being confirmed. So that should be another one off the list as well.
Okay.
Brightsdale Farm Developments, we reached out in respect of that one, and that has been I don't think I've seen the final documentation, but that's been withdrawn, so that's great.
So have they backed off, or has there been a resolution? They just
Backed off.
Okay.
Better. They're not continuing to pursue it.
Okay.
And that, yeah, that's it in their respective, unless there's any other questions.
Any further questions? Anyway. Resolution, note contents report. Note the updates on timing and progress on projects undertaken by the planning policy. Move that, we approve that, the seconder. Gavin, any further discussion? All in favour? Carry, thanks, Alison. Now I'd like to move that the public be excluded from the meeting. Someone second it? Barry? All in favour?